Are you wondering how you can generate a lot of passive income and potential growth without having to pick stocks one by one? Well, the answer to that is 3 letters, which are ETF. Today, you'll find what are the 4 best ETFs to buy in 2023 and hold forever. To pick those different funds, I've picked and I've chose the best of the best in all the different sectors that are important to have in your portfolio. I first started by picking what is the best dividend ETF that you can hold. After, I've picked the best growth ETF, followed by the best international ETF. And to finish, I've picked my core ETF, which is the most important among the 3 other ETFs to hold in your portfolio. So if there was only one ETF that I could pick among all of them, it would be the last one. For my first pick and the best dividend fund that you can hold in your portfolio, I've picked the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF with the ticker SCHD. This ETF is tracking the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index, which is an index composed of many different high dividend US companies. It is why you can find companies such as Broadcom, Pfizer, Verizon, Coca-Cola, and Home Depot among the biggest holdings of this ETF. And over 85% of the total companies held into this ETF are large cap companies, which are also mainly focused in the technology sector, followed by the financial, the consumer staples, the healthcare, and the industrials. And with their 103 different holdings, what is the most interesting about this fund is their past performance over the last couple of years. Indeed, they have been able to return over 13 and 14% over the last 5 and 10 years, which is a lot compared to the average stock market return that is represented by the S&P 500. That means that 10 years ago, if you would have invested about $10,000 in that fund, it would be worth nowadays more than $37,000. And another reason why this fund is worldwide recognized as one of the best dividend ETF of all time is their super low management fees of only about 0.06%, which represents some fees of about $6 per $10,000 invest in that fund. And to distribute the massive dividend that are given by those companies held within this fund, they are giving some great quarterly income distribution to their different holders. And with over $100 billion of assets under management, it is one of the few ETFs that you can hold for 10, 20, or 50 years and harvest the fruits of your hard work at that time. Now for my second pick and for the best growth ETF to buy and hold for life, I've went with the famous Vanguard S&P 500 Index ETF with the ticker VOO. I've long hesitated between this one and the Vanguard Small Cap ETF because of the potential of this last one to outperform the overall market, but I finally went with VOO because of the stability of the companies that are held within the fund. And as its name is saying it, this Vanguard S&P 500 Index ETF is tracking the S&P 500 Index, which is composed of the 500 largest companies in the US in terms of valuation. So obviously, you'll find companies such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Tesla amongst the biggest holdings of this ETF. Can you really go wrong with those companies? And as you can understand, the technology sector is the largest sector among this fund that's worth over 25% of the overall ETF. After, you have the healthcare sector, the financial sector, and the consumer discretionary. Despite being an ETF that is more focused on growth compared to SCHD, it has returned slightly less than them over the last 10 years, as we can see with their performance of about 13.5%. And this is due a lot to the poor performance that it has seen over the last year of about less 13%. However, despite its poor performance over the last year as the overall market, this ETF, just like SCHD, is worldwide known as being one of the best ETF with the lowest management fees. Indeed, with its MER of only about 0.03%, it represents some fees annually of about $3 per $10,000 invest in that fund. And with a valuation of close to $800 billion of assets under management, it is considered as one of the largest ETF in the entire world. And just like SCHD, they are giving some quarterly distribution to their holders. And now, for my third pick, which is the best international ETF that you can buy, I've went with the Vanguard Total International Index ETF with the ticker VXUS. This fund is tracking the FTSE Global All Cap Except US Index, which is an index composed of companies outside the United States. In fact, this ETF is pretty interesting if you want to increase the geographical diversification in your portfolio while adding some different markets that you wouldn't necessarily hold if it wasn't for this ETF, for example, Europe and Asia. It is why you can find companies such as Taiwan Semiconductor, Nestle, Tencent, and Roche as some of the biggest holdings of this fund. And in fact, the geographical diversification among this ETF is divided between three main regions. So you have the emerging markets, Europe, and the Pacific. Another interesting point is that about 7% of the overall ETF is located in North America, which means that those companies are from Canada and Mexico. And this ETF has over 8,000 different stocks in it, which makes it one of the largest ETFs on that side. This fund also has currently about $350 billion of assets under management. And over the last 5 and 10 years, we can see that this fund hasn't performed as well as the two previous ETFs that I've presented to you early on, and they have returned about 2 and 5% over that period. One of the main reasons that explain that is that the biggest part of the liquidity that is injected in the stock market is put in the American market. So obviously, it makes that the biggest earners are often coming from the US market. But on its side, VXUS also has some pretty low MER of only about 0.07%, which represents some fees of about $7 per $10,000 invest in that fund. And on their side, they are also giving some quarterly distributions to their holders. Finally, for my core holding, if I had to pick only one ETF among all of those funds, it would be that one. And to represent the overall market, I've obviously picked the famous Vanguard Total Stock Market Index ETF with the ticker VTI. So as you can guess, this ETF is tracking the CRSP US Total Market, which is basically an index tracking the whole market. And it's why you can find over 4,000 different stocks within this fund, which obviously include companies such as Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, and Alphabet amongst the biggest holdings of this fund. So as you can see, all of the biggest holdings of this ETF are pretty similar to the VOO ETF because in fact the overall market is driven by a lot of those big companies such as Apple and Amazon. But with the difference that within this ETF, you can also hold different small cap and medium cap companies. But once again, you can find the tech sector as the biggest sector of this fund, followed by the healthcare, the consumer discretionary, the industrials, and the financial sector. And it has also reached some pretty good performance over the last couple of years, as we can see with a performance of about 13% over the last 10 years and 10% over the last 5 years, which also makes it pretty interesting on that side as well. And it also has the same MER as VOO, which is about 0.03% per year. That represents about $3 per $10,000 invest in that fund. And it is also considered as one of the largest funds in the entire world in terms of valuation, with over $1.2 trillion of assets under management. And obviously, they are also giving some great quarterly distribution. Now, personally, if I had to build a portfolio from those 4 ETFs, I would allocate about 50% of my cash into VTI. After, I would put about 20% in VOO and 20% in SCHD to finish with about 10% in VXUS. As you've been able to see in this video, there are plenty of different ways that you can build the perfect portfolio for you, depending only only own a few different ETFs. But obviously, before to pick those ETFs that you would put in your perfect portfolio, you need to understand what are the worst investing mistakes that you need to avoid when you first start to invest. And to learn about that, check out the video that's gonna be right over here. And if you like personal finance, make sure to join the North family by subscribing to the channel for only $0.0. And I will see you soon. Peace!